So I figured I'd make this video on how I make my keto coffee, because it's been a major staple and what's been a pretty well life-changing experience for me. I lost about 30 pounds in around 3 months, kept it off. It was surprisingly easy once I got into the swing of things, but the coffee in particular has been a huge staple. That's been something that I've been able to do when I've fallen off the wagon as well, so I figured I'd share it. And you know, the reason why I felt like I should share it is because keto has been such a life-changing experience for me, not only in the lost body weight, which is obviously a hugely important thing, but it also cleaned up my mind in a way that I wasn't expecting. I started to feel like my thoughts were clearer, and I had this connection with myself, like I don't know, I guess you'd call it intuition or something. But anyway, it's been a pretty life-changing experience. I wouldn't expect at 33 years old that I would gain a whole new understanding in my mind on life and perspective on it. And really grateful that I did have this cleaning up of my mind, because, you know, otherwise I feel like I would still be in the dark. And so, you know, if that's for you, great. If not, that's also great. But regardless, hopefully maybe you'll consider, if you don't like my coffee recipe, doing the keto diet for yourself, or looking into it to see if it's right for you, because you know, I think it's a life-changing thing. It's my first time ever being on a diet, and I don't think there's really, well, yeah, there's probably other ones that'll be good and whatnot, and other, you know, there's pros and cons to anything, like you would expect. But yeah, anyway, I'll show you how to make my coffee first, and then if you don't want to stick around for all this other spiritual, scientifical mumbo jumbo, that's completely cool. But anyway, so I got MCT oil here. Organic, if you can, is better, but if not, that's perfectly fine as well. I've even bought stuff that looks like it's you know, no way you'd be putting it in your coffee. It looks like a cooking oil straight up, along the lines of like a vegetable oil or something, but it's an organic MCT coconut oil. But you know, so there's a wide variety of different kinds you can use. But I got that MCT medium chain triglycerides. You know, you can look into it. But butter in my coffee every morning, about a tablespoon of it. It's got to be grass-fed cows. I know Kerrygold is a good brand. It's worked for me. They're pretty reputable. People seem to think pretty highly of their product. I enjoy it, and you know, find your own. That's fine. I'm just showing you what I use. But anyway, it's got to be grass-fed cows, because you don't want all those hormones. If you're on keto, butters and fats are a huge part of your diet, and you need quality over quantity. That's a huge thing to remember with ketoing, anyway, in my mind. But also coconut oil, first organic version, first press, cold press. It should be, I believe, yeah, cold press, unrefined. Organic, if you can, is even better. But it's not the end of the world if you just, you know, and it's not the end of the world if you get a coconut oil that's not along these lines, you know. You want to get as close to that as you can, but a few variances isn't going to be the end of the world either. It's all, each victory is something that you should count in your playbook. So anyway, this is what I have in the morning. This coffee, like I say, is a huge staple for me, because sometimes the coffee is all I have until noon or until 2 or 3 o'clock, and you know, my energy is way higher than it ever was when I'd be, you know, making my regular old French vanilla coffee and eating whatever bread product I wanted to eat and all that other junk. But anyway, that's not that important part right here. But anyway, so we've got a tablespoon or so of Kerrygold butter. I already got that cut. I don't know, pretty sly. Throw that in there. A little coconut oil, about a tablespoon of that. This doesn't got to be perfect, but you know, everybody's a little different in their tastes and their body needs. But you get a variety of different fats this way. I like that. I don't want them all from just one source. You can take like 3 tablespoons of butter if you want, but that's, I don't know. I think, in my opinion, what's worked for me, having a variety of sources seems to work out pretty well. And that's kind of my thinking behind it. So MCT oil, about a tablespoon of that as well. It's kind of, I just pour a little bit in, go just like that. So that's the important part. Now from here, I used to love French vanilla and it doesn't work, so yeah, it's got all the carbs. I'm sure this isn't the healthiest option. I'm sure you could find something better, or maybe you don't even like the cream, but whatever the case is, you know, this works for me. Low carbs, works good. You know, shake that shit stuff up, excuse me, sorry. We'll pour about, you know, as much as you want. I like, you know, I've always been a sweet tooth, so going on keto is especially hard for me because I love sugar, and I've got a particularly sweet spot, soft spot for gummy candies. Man, they're delicious. I don't know what it is. Even the disgusting ones still taste good for some reason. But anyway, when I first started keto, I didn't even use any sweeteners, and then a friend recommended stevia. And you know, I don't know if it's the best thing in the world or not, but it's from a plant naturally, so I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy, but at least it does have that going for it, and it does come organic, so I know I'm not getting all of those pesticides and junk that I grow all the other stuff with. So, you know, again, sweeten up to your taste. This is all optional right here. I usually, oh shoot, spill a little bit for Leo. Well, good thing it's not xylitol. We're going a little bit. Yeah. Leo right here, who's putting his nose up in the camera, is our new dog that we added to the bunch. I think he's about 6 or 7 years old. We just got him from the Humane Society, and you know, we got 3 other meatballs hanging around here, so why not add one more to the mix, and I'll let him get on all the loafing that's going on around here. So anyway, last but not least, a little salt. I like this Himalayan salt for the minerals and whatnot, and plus it's kind of cool to grind it because, yeah, why not? It's fresher maybe, but I prefer this salt knowing it's a little bit more natural than probably like iodine salt from other standard bleached table salt. But I don't know if they bleach table salt, but anyway. This will help balance out the bitterness of the sweetener. You know, if you stevia or something else, I'd heard that salt helps to balance out that, and I tried it. Actually, props to my dear mother, love you mom. She recommended that salt, and I haven't stopped using it since then. So anyway, let's see. So that is that for the coffee. Let me grab this over here, and you can see, you know, I got a pretty good amount in there, but yeah. Hopefully I get this camera set back. Oh man, something about this baby frothing up is nice too. It just sounds nice. You gotta let the butter melt a little bit before you can drink it, but anyway, so that's how I make the coffee. If that's all you want, hopefully you enjoy it. If you try it and find out that it does good things for you. Keto can be a little slow going at first, but it's only hard until it's not hard. Once you break that hump of getting past some of the energy lulls, it's an amazing experience. So, I can say that, and that's why I'm even sharing this, because I realize this probably isn't the most original coffee recipe that anybody's ever put on YouTube, but I just wanted to share what it did for me in my mind, because that was the biggest thing. I've always been a little bit of a geek, I guess, kind of walked the line between nerd and athletic guy, I guess, for lack of better terms. I wouldn't say jock or but anyway. So yeah, at one point several years ago, I had like this idea that when we die, we travel on as beams of light, and it was something that I could never shake. I actually kind of had it in like what I would call a vision. I won't get too much into the details on that, but during this experience, I had this. I felt like I was traveling on this beam of light, like in my mind, and something about it just seemed so connected to the real nature of things, and I was like, well, it made sense to me, because all light is coming in, and reflects, you know, what you see of me is just a reflection of the light off of my skin, or whatever constitutes my skin. I won't go into that right now, but that's the light, you know, you're perceiving the light reflecting off me. So what happens to that light once you've perceived it in any light that goes beyond it? I mean, does it continually travel out into the universe? Is there a beam of light out there right now that's basically a timeline of your life traveling out throughout the universe, essentially? Because, I mean, is there a limit to how far light travels and what goes on with that? But anyway, that was kind of an idea that I had that I could never drop, and didn't really know what to do with it. I mean, not many people are that interested in talking about that type of stuff in most regular social circles, but you know, I found it extremely interesting, and instead of just dropping it, I look at other stuff and like what is light, and what you know, you get down into quantum mechanics and energy and all this other stuff, and you know, there's actually a deeper connection there that started to emerge to me as a result of the cleansing of my mind that happened from the keto, I think, because I just kind of had this deeper connection with like this inner knowing of intuition, I would call it. I mean, it's like I've developed this spirituality that, you know, everybody's it's got to be found in themselves, but and if it's not a spiritual thing for you, that's, you know, whatever it is, whatever, however you want to quantify it for yourself, that's fine. But anyway, so I had this idea of light traveling on and whatnot, and the fact that we're all beings of light. But then, you know, something else that kind of just struck a chord with me that one day I was pondering was like how an atom is. They say everything around us is all made up of atoms, and it's like, okay, well, what is an atom? It's like some electrons and some neutrons and a nucleus, and then, or yeah, it's circling around the nucleus, and then made up of the quarks, or, you know, I don't know the names of different quantum particles, but they are very interesting. There's a lot of insane stuff about that could have some really crazy far-reaching implications. But so anyway, this idea that we're all made up of atoms and whatnot that are made of, you know, these same building blocks, all the atoms, it doesn't matter whether it's a shoe or rock, the wind, the sky, the tree, us, our brains, our blood, whatever, you know, it's all made up of atoms. It's all made of the same stuff. And they say that inside an atom, that the nucleus would be like a fly sitting inside a cathedral. So there's all this empty space inside these atoms. And so something that really jogged my mind was, I think I read that if you took all the empty space out of the atoms that make up the Empire State Building, it would only be about the size of a car or something, the actual physical matter in the atoms. So it's like, how is it that our brains can take all that empty space and turn it into this giant structure and do that with everything around us? And it's like, what all are our limited five senses missing that we think that we already perceive? And so, you know, it's one of those things that kind of started to get me thinking. So if we're all made of atoms, our brains are made of atoms, so what does that mean our thoughts are made of? I mean, are our thoughts made of atoms too? Are we actually creating, you know, atoms are energy. Energy is this positive, negative flow, never-ending pendulum swing of rhythm that constitutes everything. So what happens to these thoughts that are in this rhythmic flow? You know, you think of like a rope that you send a ripple through or whatever. What happens to those ripples? I mean, obviously that's a way dumbed down idea of it, but anyway, hopefully that gives it at least some kind of visualization of the idea that I'm trying to get across. But so anyway, is what it boils down to is, what does that mean the importance of our thoughts are? If we're all interconnected with this whole entire reality around us, it's all made of atoms, it's made of the same stuff as us, it's made of the same stuff as our brains, it's made of the same stuff, can our thoughts produce? It's hard to understand exactly what's going on. It's got to be a chemical process in there that actually creates the imagery in our minds, whatever that happens to be. And so what is the actual process on a small level that creates the thought? So there's something happening there, and how far does that actually ripple throughout the space-time is, something that I've contemplated a lot lately, and actually is what got me so connected with just what I feel like is my higher self, and a greater understanding and feeling of what makes sense to me. So anyway, I probably lost most people clear back at, hey, this is my keto coffee, but if you stuck around this long, then props to you. Definitely be interested to talk more about it to more people. I got a rabbit hole to go down right here. And this is, it's all along, I don't know, I guess it's not all along the same lines, because you get into different interconnecting topics like sacred geometry, just metaphysics, music, harmony, light, frequency, the EM spectrum. I guess one last point I did really want to make before I close out, because I know this is dragging on and I didn't want to do that, is that, so if we're all made of atoms and everything, what causes the atoms in our body to decide to come together and create you, yourself, myself? Why didn't those atoms decide to come together and be a table? Why didn't they come together and decide to be a couch, So it's like, is our body actually creating our existence by production of a brain that has 5 senses that can just perceive a very limited scope of everything around us? Because you look at all the senses that different animals have, and you can plainly see that our senses are severely lacking compared to all the information that could be available. But anyway, so what I was thinking is, what causes the atoms in our body to come together and create us? Is our body, is this existence created by our body, or is our body actually just a container for our mind? And shoot, man, there's one more other thing I wanted to talk about too, that was really just a mind-blowing thought that I've had, that's been all a result of this keto diet and cleaning up my mind. So I'll give you this last thought, because I want to share it and put it out there, because I find it really fascinating, because it all came from me in my quest to improve my health and try to optimize my health. So I started thinking about basic processes inside my body and the cellular processes. And so I was like, okay, well, what's going on with my cells? And I started looking up things like boron and magnesium and several other things, but that's another time. But then also the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. And something that really was mind-blowing to me is that mitochondria have their own DNA independent of the cell. So our body is full of all these cells, trillions of cells, or however many numbers there are inside each of us, that each has its own individual powerhouse with its own unique DNA. They each have their own unique DNA inside their mitochondria. Now, I've only done scratch the surface on that, and I found it extremely fascinating. My mind kind of just exploded from there. So maybe I'm giving you bad information right now, but I don't think so. So hopefully not. But if this is actually true, then these cells. So think of it this way: if all these cells are independent and they're in their role for survival, they want to find food to nourish and grow and repair themselves, any cell damage. They want to stay away from threats like viruses and pathogens, bacteria, whatnot, and anything like that. And sometimes they work together to do stuff like repairing your body. It's much like humans. We're all each individual people on this planet with our own unique DNA. We all more or less work together trying to accomplish the same goals. We want to hopefully work towards the common good for every human or every cell. And so you think about this, do these cells have any concept that they're actually all just part of a larger structure that is yourself? Do they know that each one of those individual cells is just fighting for its life inside your body, wherever it's living at, or whatever its job is, doesn't realize it's actually playing a role in a greater consciousness. Now, if you take this concept and think, well, what about people on the planet? We're all unique people. We all work together for more or less the same goals. We all have unique DNA. We're all thinking. We all have this modus for survival. How do we know we're not part of a larger consciousness that is above us that we can't perceive? And that's something. How do we know that our planetary consciousness isn't part of like a consciousness that grows along the galaxy or along the universe? If our thoughts are all light, or are all on this EM spectrum that's affected by gravity, maybe the whole consciousness is held in place by gravity, the gravity of the universe and the planets, and that's my question. Keto, also the pineal gland and the third eye, I've tried to cleanse out my mind in numerous different ways. Of meditation has been a huge thing. But anyway, sorry for this long video. Hopefully you found some information in it that you can maybe apply to your own life, or do whatever with it. Just food for thought. You can bring it up to some of your friends and have them tell you what a crazy mofo you are, and to quit talking about that stuff. And I will welcome you to the club for that. So that's my 2 cents.